You logged into the Great Dao game a billion years before any other player. Arriving in the primordial world at the very beginning of its creation, you faced all kinds of innate spirit treasures. Countless storage bags were filled, and you became the game's true number one. You even became the peerless, supreme primordial emperor. Just as you were wondering how to continue exploring, a notification suddenly appeared in the game. You have cultivated for a billion years. Your cultivation has reached the realm of the supreme primordial emperor. The Great Dao game is about to officially launch. Please exit the game temporarily and wait for the launch. The next second, you were kicked out of the game. Just as you were feeling confused, inside the minds of everyone on Blue Star, a voice that shook the heavens and the earth appeared. The Great Dao game is officially launching. The power players gain in the game can be brought into the real world. Strive to become stronger. Players, hearing this, you were already stunned, looking at the familiar game login in your mind. The interface and that notification sound. If this is really true, then you, who had already become the game's supreme primordial emperor and possessed countless collectibles, wouldn't that mean you could already do whatever you want in this world? 1 year ago, you were just scrolling through videos online, and saw one that said you could enter the game world just by sending 3 dog head emojis. At first, you didn't believe it. But you were directly transported here, to this primordial world at the dawn of creation. And at that moment, there were still a billion years until the game's official launch. And this game was nothing like the extraordinary cultivation games you had imagined. It was just the most ordinary game imaginable. In the game, you were a player. There was no such thing as a lifespan, and you could be revived infinitely after death. So, you outlasted countless NPC Taoist friends in there and finally succeeded in advancing, becoming the one and only peerless, supreme primordial emperor. In these billion years, you've gathered far too many innate supreme treasures and countless elixirs, secret manuals, weapons, and so on. 4619 As someone with a collector's obsession, if your inventory doesn't have at least 99 plus of everything, you're not doing yourself justice. After that, you just log on every day out of boredom to collect things, until a year had passed in reality. And in the game, you had already passed a billion years. And now, they're talking about an official launch? Although you didn't know what might change, you still treated this game, which belonged only to you, as a daily must-see pastime. When you thought about the fact that you could show off in front of a bunch of newbies in this game, you started to feel a little excited. However, the next moment, that voice that shook the heavens and the earth rang out in the minds of all Blue Star inhabitants. The Great Dao game is officially launching. The power players gain in the game can be brought into the real world. Strive to become stronger, players. As soon as the voice faded, you felt your entire being jolt. An aura, just as it was about to wash over Blue Star, was instinctively pulled back by you. You could feel the power to freely control the fate of the world and time. You could destroy the entire universe in an instant, and in the next instant, replay the creation of earth, water, fire, and wind to forge a whole new world. And this was only a part of your abilities. Simply put, from this day forward, you are invincible. Invincible in every sense of the word. So, when can those treasures of yours appear in the real world? No, that's not right. I still haven't collected enough. I can't believe these things can be brought into reality. Then I have to keep collecting. An idea suddenly popped into my head. I'm going to collect every single thing I can. The game's achievements, titles, rewards, equipment. I want them all, even if they're useless. The satisfaction of collecting just feels so good. For a brief moment, the world seemed to go back to normal. Except you were the only one who changed. Your other roommates in the dorm seemed not to have noticed the change in you. Instead, they stared at each other in disbelief. Holy crap, you guys heard that voice too, right? The Grand Dao game. We have to get online now. Hurry up and log in to level up. Let's go. Hurry and log into the game. The next moment, the 3 of them vanished from the dorm room. At the same time, countless people across the globe disappeared, all reappearing in the Grand Dao game. They appeared in this endlessly vast, primordial world. At this moment, every country on planet Blue was thrown into chaos. Every nation was holding emergency high-level meetings, desperately trying to figure out how to handle this mysterious Grand Dao game. Some countries even proposed the absurd decision to make entering the Grand Dao game illegal. And just as all the nations sent forces like their armies into the game, another game notification appeared. The current number of players has exceeded 5 billion. The Grand Dao Gold rankings are now open. The rankings will provide the fairest daily assessment of all players. The top 1 million players on the list will receive precious rewards. The level rankings on the Grand Dao Gold rankings are now unlocked. The board will refresh in exactly 24 hours. The higher your rank, the richer the rewards. First place gets a super reward. Please level up and increase your power as soon as possible. To get more rewards, the appearance of the Grand Dao Gold rankings drove countless people across the globe into a frenzy, especially those two words, precious rewards. Your 3 roommates also entered the Grand Dao game together. Everyone else picked their own in-game names. But you had already chosen your name a billion years ago, Dao Yi. You were in Novice Village number 957. The first thing you saw was a sea of people. Countless people were packed together. It was a spectacular sight. "Whoa, this is so awesome," Wang Lei and Zhou Hao exclaimed. But you knew where this was with a single thought. This Novice Village is located in the Great Tang of the East, within the southern Jambudvipa continent. Let's go kill some rabbits and level up fast. Maybe we can even compete for a spot on the level rankings. Zhou Hao grabbed you, about to leave, but you shook your head. "No, you guys go on ahead. I have something to do." "Holy crap, how are you flying? Holy crap." Zhou Hao suddenly lost his cool mid-sentence. He watched you fly away, his face a mask of shock, his eyes filled with utter disbelief. The crowd around you also noticed you flying away, their eyes glazed over in a stupor. Everyone here is a new player who just entered the Novice Village. You're the only one who can freaking fly? That's just ridiculous. You ignored them and flew directly towards the edge of the Novice Village's barrier. Then, you took a supreme treasure of chaos out of your backpack, the Chaos Pearl model. Right now, the Chaos Pearl is packed with an endless sea of storage bags. It's practically boundless. Every single one of these bags is stuffed with all sorts of gear and items. There are magic treasures and spirit pills everywhere. Anything below the immortal grade wasn't even worthy of your collection back then, but now, you're starting to feel a bit of regret. If you had known these things could actually manifest in the real world, you would have collected everything you saw, no matter what. But it's not too late yet. You'll just have to keep on collecting. You can feel your inner hoarder starting to itch. Meanwhile, on the other side, the high-ranking officials of Great Sha are also meeting within the game. How many of our Tianxia military personnel have awakened their talents? At this point, nearly every soldier from Great Sha has entered the game. So far, we only have 8 people who have awakened talents. That's such a small number. What about the civilians? We don't know yet, but so far, 4 people have been confirmed to have awakened talents. One is in beginner village number 2347. And another in village number 9527. Find them in the real world. Recruit them as quickly as possible. What's the highest level among our people right now? Elder Shah, our highest ranking person, has already reached level 8. They should be in the lead within the top tier. This person is a talent user. They possess the ability of General Heng from the legendary Hengha duo, Zheng Lun. Just by snorting out a cloud of white gas, they can absorb the souls of anyone weaker than them. That's incredibly powerful. Very good, keep it up. We must secure the rewards for being number 1 on the level rankings. Elder Shah nods with satisfaction. As for the talent users we've already found, we need to track down their real-world identities immediately. These people are far too important. We have to bring them into the fold as soon as possible. A day of practice passes by in a flash. Even though everyone is pushing themselves to the limit, frantically killing monsters to level up, it's a shame. In the end, they just can't compete with the power of a collective effort. Most players are only around level 3 or 4 right now. Meanwhile, players being backed by the full resources of certain countries have already hit level 9. How are they supposed to compete with that? One by one, players begin to log off, ending their day of grinding. But soon, things start happening in the real world. Everyone is excitedly testing out their new powers. At this stage, most people don't have much, just the basic skills from their beginner classes. Things like dash or block. For heavy strike and other skills, they have to wait until they hit level 10 and complete their class transfer. But even with just that, the real world quickly descends into chaos. There was just too much pent-up stress from their daily lives. Now that they have power, some people are letting it go to their heads. Everyone is frantically venting their frustrations. Fortunately, the government reacted quickly. The soldiers' levels are generally higher than those of the civilians. They managed to suppress the chaos pretty fast, but there were still quite a few casualties. Back in the dorm, Qin Chuan's roommates have also returned to Earth. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei both turned to look at him. Qin Chuan, what level are you at now? Qin Chuan glances at his stats. Level. None. As the Supreme Primordial Emperor, I don't have a level. No way. Don't tell me you didn't kill a single monster? Did you just fly around looking at the scenery the whole time? Dude, you actually awakened a talent. Don't you want to try for the top 10 on the leaderboard? I'm definitely taking that number 1 spot, you know. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei both give Qin Chuan a sarcastic thumbs up. Yeah, right, like we'd believe you. Holy crap, I just blasted the dorm door open with one punch. To test his strength, Zhou Hao had punched the dormitory door directly. The dorm room door was smashed with a huge hole, but he was completely unscathed. He's only level 5, yet he's already this strong. Just then, the school's broadcast suddenly blared. All students and teachers, please proceed to the main field as soon as possible to register your game identity. The two of them instantly turned pale, their faces full of resistance. They knew all too well what this registration meant. Once your real name is registered, all of your achievements in the game could be looked up by anyone. By the way, Qin Chuan, about you awakening your talent. You absolutely cannot let anyone know, Wang Lei said with a serious expression. If you need money, just tell us. Don't register. It's too dangerous. You waved your hand dismissively. There's no need. If I have to register, I'll register. You never intended to hide it anyway. Just as the two were about to persuade you, the principal's voice came through the broadcast again. All players who complete the real name registration will receive a monthly subsidy of 10,000 yuan. Those with awakened talents can receive a subsidy of 5 million a month, plus preferential access to official in-game resources. Joining the officials means you can be directly commissioned and appointed to a position. The field instantly erupted. As soon as the words fell, a girl stood up directly. She said in a loud voice, "Principal, I have a talent." The principal was overjoyed on the spot and immediately had someone notify the military to come over. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei were stunned. They never would have imagined that their own school was hiding two talented individuals. Just then, another system notification echoed through every corner of Blue Star and the primordial world. The 24 hours are up. The Heavenly Tao Gold Rankings. Level rankings have been refreshed. A golden scroll that blocked out the sky and sun appeared out of thin air in the sky, ignoring all spatial barriers. Everyone could see it just by looking up. You stared at that golden scroll. Your collector's instinct went wild. That achievement of being number 1 on the level rankings was something you were determined to get. Inside the highest conference room of Great Shah, Elder Long stared intently at the sky and asked in a deep voice, "What level is our highest ranked player, Zheng Lun, now?" Reporting to Elder Long, still level 9. He's been killing monsters non-stop. Elder Long nodded, but his fingertips tightened slightly. This number 1 spot, we must secure it. It wasn't just Great Shah. Every country, every player in the world, was staring intently at that golden scroll, even holding their breath. The Great Tao Gold Rankings. The top 1 million players will all receive rewards. We will now announce the top 10. Number 10, LVE. Yamashita Kuzi, Sakura Island. 8th level of Chi Refining. Reward, 1 piece of diamond equipment. The entire nation of Sakura Island erupted in celebration. Countless people cheered wildly. Some even began to boast that the Yamato people were the most superior race. 9th place, LV8. Zhang Yi, Daxia, 8th layer of Chi Refining. Reward, 1 piece of diamond equipment. The people of Daxia instantly cheered, but they didn't know the hearts of Daxia's high command were already starting to sink. Next up, 8th and 7th place were taken by the Bald Eagles and Russia, respectively. 6th place, LV9. Zheng Lun, Daxia, 9th layer of Chi Refining. Reward, 1 piece of diamond equipment. The people of Daxia erupted in cheers again, but the faces of Elder Long and the others instantly turned deathly pale. Zheng Lun was the strongest player Daxia had poured all its resources into cultivating. And he only ranked 6th. The top 5 was completely out of reach. Next up, 5th place and 4th place were taken by the Bald Eagles and India, respectively. There were no more Daxia players' names on the list. The hearts of the people of Daxia jumped into their throats. The entire internet fell silent. 3rd place, LV9. Idas, the Bald Eagles. 9th layer of Chi Refining. Reward, A full set of diamond equipment. Second place, LV10, Steven. The Bald Eagles, perfected chi refining. Reward, 1 piece of legendary equipment. The Bald Eagles had a whopping 4 people break into the top 10. They took both second and third place outright. The whole world exploded. Countless nations with ill will towards Daxia jumped out to mock and maliciously slander them, doing their utmost to humiliate them. In the novice village of Beiju Lujo, Steven, who had reached level 10 by killing players to grind for experience, looked at his second place ranking. His face instantly turned ashen. He swung his scythe and directly cut off the neck of the player next to him who was feeding him experience. His eyes were filled with rage. He couldn't believe he wasn't number 1. Meanwhile, the higher-ups of the Bald Eagles were already popping champagne and celebrating wildly. They were certain that first place could absolutely not belong to Daxia. They had already thought of countless plans to use this incident to deal a heavy blow to Daxia's national confidence. They could even use this to create a batch of weak-willed sycophants in Daxia. On Daxia's side, however, the atmosphere was deathly silent. Everyone held their breath, staring at the Great Dao Golden Ranking, waiting for the final reveal of first place. As long as the person at the top of the list was from Daxia, all the previous humiliation could be thrown right back at them. The people still clung to the hope of a miracle, but Daxia's high command had already fallen silent. They knew best. The highest level Daxia player they knew of was only LV9, the 9th layer of chi refining. But the Bald Eagles already had someone who broke through to LV10. How could Daxia possibly compete for first place? On the large field of the University of Finance and Economics, the gathered students grew increasingly anxious. Clenching their fists, they stared intently at the golden ranking. And just then, Great Shah's officials have released an announcement. We are about to face a new ranking battle. We hope that all of Great Shah will unite as one to overcome the future hardships. The people of Great Shah are unbeatable. The people of Great Shah are immortal. Everyone read between the lines of the announcement. The higher-ups in Great Shah had already accepted the result. Great Shah doesn't even have a single level 10 player. The grounds instantly erupted into chaos. Everyone was burning with an unventable rage. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei were also staring intently at the screen. They frantically prayed in their hearts for a miracle to appear. You were the only calm one in the entire place. You just smiled faintly, looking at the golden ranking of the Great Dao that held the gaze of the entire Blue Star, while everyone else watched with extreme anxiety. The golden ranking slowly unfurled, finally revealing the information of the top ranker. First place, Dao Yi Tianjun, Supreme Shah, Supreme Primordial Emperor. Reward, Supreme Primordial Unsurpassed Great Heavenly Lord. Unique Supreme Rank Title, Supreme Primordial Unsurpassed Great Heavenly Lord. Unique Title, Immune to all arts. Repels all evil, possessing countless wondrous powers. You revealed a smile. All set, the achievement was in hand, and you even snagged a unique title. A great sense of satisfaction welled up inside you. The entire Blue Star fell into a long, dead silence. A level of 5 question marks. An unheard of cultivation level of Supreme Primordial Emperor. Even if foreigners didn't understand the meaning of primordial, they still understood. The single word, supreme, represented absolute divine authority. Players from Great Shah felt their scalps tingle. In their mythology, primordial is an existence even older than chaos. They were hoping for a miracle, but they never expected to get a supreme god. After a brief, dead silence, the entire territory of Great Shah erupted in earth-shattering cheers. Everyone was screaming and celebrating. Who said Great Shah had no one? We went and took the top spot. And it's an absolute first place that crushes the entire server. At the same time, the foreign players completely lost it, spamming the screen with accusations of cheating. They were shouting to report him to the Great Dao game and get his account banned. The foreign higher-ups' vision went black, and they nearly collapsed. They knew all too well the importance of this game. Game abilities can be brought into reality. A level 5 player can ignore small-caliber firearms. This Great Shah player with a 5-digit level was on a completely different dimension of power. What made them despair even more was that this powerhouse just so happened to belong to Great Shah, this ancient civilization with thousands of years of heritage. Just as everyone was guessing that you were a myth made manifest, the Great Dao game rapidly fired off 3 urgent announcements, which completely blew everyone's minds. Game announcement. Player, Dao Yi Tianjun, does not have any record of cheating. After inspection by the Great Dao, Player Dao Yi Tianen's official server login time is the same as other players. Their identity is also that of a modern human from Blue Star. The so-called rumors of them being a mythical emperor or heavenly lord are false. Everyone was stunned. This powerhouse who crushed the entire server was actually just a normal player who joined on the same day as them. Only you knew the truth. You did indeed log into the official server on the first day. But you had already played the beta server for 1 billion years in advance. The foreign players were so jealous they could have ground their teeth to dust. The players from Great Shah, however, were ecstatic, hailing you as a national hero. The entire internet is searching for you, and the higher-ups at Daxia breathed a sigh of relief. They immediately gave an order, mobilizing every player in the game. You had to be found as soon as possible. Meanwhile, they also sent people to recruit that player from Novice Village number 957 who awakened the Flying Heaven talent. You still haven't realized that 2 different groups of people are frantically searching for you. Just then, Zhou Hao and Wang Lei excitedly pull you into the game, shouting about grinding levels and killing monsters. You were already planning to stroll around the Novice Village to gather some collectibles anyway. After all, you plan on using this entire world as your exhibition hall. No treasure can be overlooked. You casually ask them, you two haven't rested for a whole day. Can you handle it? Zhou Hao's face is full of excitement. Lei Zi and I are already level 5. We're full of energy. We could go a whole week without sleep and be fine. You nod your head. You guys go on ahead, then. The 2 of them are instantly stunned. Chuan Zi, aren't you coming? You laugh and shake your head. I already told you guys, I'm number 1 on the leaderboards. What monsters do I need to kill? The 2 of them give you a thumbs down at the same time. Clearly not believing you. Yeah, right, keep on bragging. You don't bother explaining further. Believe it or not, that's up to you. Just don't say I hid it from you later. As you're about to leave, Wang Lei calls out, wanting to add you as a friend. You simply leave him with a single phrase. Dao Yi, go ahead and add me. You turn and walk away. Dao Yi is your in-game name. Dao Yi Tian Zun is your Taoist title. Wang Lei is still muttering to himself. Why does that name, Dao Yi, sound so familiar? But Zhou Hao is the first to freeze. Dao Yi Tian Zun. The 2 of them frantically open up their friends panel. They type in, Dao Yi. They actually find the person. The friend request is accepted the instant they send it. The moment they click open the profile, both of their minds just explode. Player. Dao Yi. Taoist title. Dao Yi Tian Zun. Level. Supreme Grand Mist Emperor. With trembling hands, Zhou Hao sends a message, Chin. Chuan, is that you? A few seconds pass. You reply with a single word. The 2 of them are completely floored. Their minds go blank, with only a single thought remaining. My roommate is actually the number 1 player on the entire server, Dao Yi Tian Zun. Just as you reach the other side of the Novice Village, you're stopped by a few officials. They get straight to the point, confirming that you're the player who awakened the Flying Heaven talent. They immediately invite you to join the officials, promising to give you the most generous benefits. You refuse directly. I don't want to join any faction. After all, you never even joined the Zishao Palace. Why would you be bound by rules and regulations? The men didn't expect you to refuse so bluntly. They don't press the issue. Just as they're about to take their leave, a server-wide announcement suddenly rings out. Ding! Congratulations to player Steven for killing monster number 55 at Novice Village's Gate B, becoming the 2nd player to successfully leave the newbie village. Reward: 100 reputation. 1 experience medal. Ding! Congratulations to player Celestial Lord Dao Yi for killing the newbie village boss, becoming the 1st player to successfully leave the newbie village. Reward: Pioneer, a unique title. The entire server was once again in an uproar. Steven's announcement clearly went off first, so how did you end up being number 1? Only you know that you weren't just the first to leave the newbie village. You had already left 1 billion years ago. Another unique achievement secured. Your heart was filled with satisfaction. Meanwhile, Steven, who had just grinded with his team for 27 hours to clear the newbie village, had the smile on his face freeze instantly. He hated you so much he was grinding his teeth. The Owl, the Great Shah, the Ursines, and other national factions mobilized instantly. They had to find out which newbie village you were in and track you down. Great Shah officials even gave a direct order: you must be found. In less than half a day, almost every newbie village had been cleared. Newbie Village 9527 was no exception. Players were all rushing to teleport to the main city. Just as you were about to leave, right outside the Newbie Village, you ran into one of the last people you wanted to see, the mysterious Maiden of the Nine Heavens. She stood in the heavens upon an azure luan, as rosy light filled the sky. The other players were all dumbfounded. They cast their appraisal spells on her. All they saw were question marks. The next second, the mysterious Maiden of the Nine Heavens landed directly in front of you, and the surrounding players were pushed away by an invisible force. She bowed deeply, her tone incredibly respectful. "Great Heavenly Lord, the goddess sent me here to wait for you." You replied nonchalantly, You can go back now. I'll go see her in a while." The mysterious Maiden of the Nine Heavens acknowledged and immediately departed on her azure luan. Every player in the Newbie Village was dumbstruck. The legendary mysterious Maiden of the Nine Heavens was actually being so deferential to a newbie player, even calling him Great Heavenly Lord. Someone tried to record their screen, but found that the heavenly secrets were obscured. It was impossible to capture any footage. Only Zhou Hao and Wang Lei were completely numb with shock. Others couldn't believe it, but they were 100% sure. The Great Heavenly Lord that the mysterious Maiden of the Nine Heavens called out to was you. The incident instantly blew up the game forums. Most players just treated it as a joke, but the Great Shaw officials keenly picked up on a key clue and immediately summoned the real name registered players from Newbie Village 957 to verify. The story was absolutely true. And more importantly, a player had clearly heard the mysterious Maiden of the Nine Heavens address that player as Great Heavenly Lord. All the clues pointed to one thing. The mysterious player from Newbie Village 9527 was you. Celestial Lord Dao Yi. Elder Long stared at the report. His pupils contracted, and then his gaze became incredibly determined. This mysterious Celestial Lord Dao Yi must be found. Whatever the reason, you didn't follow the crowd to the main city. You were taking stock of the titles you had just been awarded. Your fingertip swiped across the game panel. Trailblazer. The unique title's details appear. Its description is clearly visible. Its effect is on the experience you gain. 1 billion years ago, this title would have been a god-tier item, but for a player like you who has long been max level, it's completely useless. You know this better than anyone. In the current Chaos and Primordial realm, the one with the highest cultivation is Taoist Yang Mei. He is only at the half-step Primordial Chaos Limitless Golden Immortal realm. And above this level, there are over a dozen more tiers, each like an insurmountable chasm. From ancient times to the present, only you have managed to max everything out to the very top, relying on the game and your awakened talents. What's even more interesting is that you've run into Yang Mei twice. Both times you treated him like a wild NPC, PK'd him, won, and then looted the collection he had amassed over countless years in the chaos. You only left him his life-bound treasure. And yet, after being beaten twice, not only does Yang Mei not hold a grudge, he's still digging for treasure in the chaos, hoping every day that you'll show up to fight him a third time. But you stopped visiting that area a long time ago. Still, who are you? You're a player with a severe collector's addiction. There's no way you'd pass up this unique title. To you, rarity is always more important than practicality. Never mind just titles, as long as it has the unique label, achievements, rewards. They are all treasures that you must add to your collection. You take the Trailblazer title and equip it. This is one of your only 2 titles. The other one is Supreme Primordial Ultimate Grand Heavenly Lord. The moment you equipped this title, the entire primordial realm went into an uproar. The boundless sound of the Tao echoed through heaven and earth, and golden lotuses burst from the ground. Sweet dew fell from the sky, and a purple aura stretching for thousands of miles hung across the horizon. The status of the entire primordial realm was elevated by this Tao rhythm, and the world's foundation grew immensely stronger. The heavenly Tao and the great Tao both showered down endless merit. You casually took out the Chaos Pearl to catch the merit of the great Tao, while the Taiji diagram caught the merit of the heavenly Tao. The 2 ultimate treasures instantly evolved into treasures of merit. Countless beings in the primordial realm benefited as well, their innate potential enhanced, and their cultivation improved. Even those old monsters who had been stuck for eons saw their bottlenecks shatter instantly. In the 33rd heaven, beneath the 9 nethers, and in the depths of the starry sky, all the great powers of the primordial realm looked toward your location on the southern continent and bowed with utmost respect. But when they rose, every single one of them had an incredibly complicated expression on their face. Their disdain was mixed with gratitude, and their gratitude was filled with an inescapable sense of dread. In the end, only long sighs filled the air. At the same time, half of all players online worldwide received a screen-flooding notification from the game of the Great Tao. A permanent boost to comprehension. Experience gain increased. The buff, enlightenment state, has been unlocked. With the Way of Tao 1, experience points skyrocketed, instantly hitting the level cap. Billions of players reaped the benefits of this game update, and they were all collectively stunned. Once they snapped out of it, the forums erupted. Some frantically worshipped you, the Tao 1 Heavenly Lord, exclaiming that you were playing a completely different game. Meanwhile, players who had just logged off and missed the benefits were having a total breakdown. They stirred up trouble on the forums, crying that it was unfair. But all this commotion, you couldn't even be bothered to give it a second glance. Inside the official command room of Da Shah, Elder Long hadn't received the benefits but didn't care in the slightest. He just stared at the report and asked, "Elder Long, confirm the total number of military players who benefited this time." Aside from a handful of personnel on duty, everyone else is online. Elder Long nodded, then turned his attention to the analysis report on the Dao Yi technique. Even someone as experienced as him couldn't help but gasp. This technique can convert intelligence into mana, and leveling up grants additional, incrementally increasing free attribute points. It also gains experience automatically, and at level 10, you can directly change your class to Chi Refiner. The only problem is that it cannot be taught. It's unspeakable, completely sealed by an unseen force. Remind the relevant departments to closely monitor public opinion on the forums, especially every move made by Dao Yi Tianjun. Report immediately if you find anything, Elder Long ordered in a deep voice. You weren't in the mood to care about the buzz on the forums or from the officials. You'd been playing long enough. You logged out of the game and went back to your dorm. Your two roommates, Lizzie and Housie, had just logged off too. They were gathered together chatting about monster slaying techniques when they saw you return. They instantly tensed up, their eyes filled with an undisguised mix of shock and fanaticism. They had long suspected that you were the one stirring up a storm, Dao Yi Tianjun. You didn't explain much, just casually asked, "Lizzie, how come you two logged off so early today? Wanna go grab a bite?" "Sure, let's go." The two of them didn't dare ask any questions they weren't supposed to. They quickly followed along. The three of you sat down at a barbecue stall near the university. Just as the drinks were poured, a scream suddenly erupted from across the street. A man with a knife was chasing and hacking at a couple like a madman, felling them to the ground in just a few slashes. His movements were ruthless, his strength and speed were far beyond that of a normal person. Holy crap, the two of them were completely stunned. That guy's gotta be at least a level 7 master, right? What on earth does he want? You glanced over and spoke calmly. He's not after money, it's simply revenge. Just wait, the officials will be implementing restrictive measures soon. How many murders have happened near us now? That night, the Great Tao Golden Leaderboard, covering the entire Blue Star, refreshed right on schedule. Countless people raised their heads to stare at the sky. The rankings for the top 9 were unchanged. In 10th place was Yamashita Pants from Soccer Island. Level 10, great perfection of the Chi refining stage. The reward was only a piece of diamond equipment. Everyone's eyes were locked firmly on the first place position. The moment the golden leaderboard unfurled, it was still that despair-inducing string of question marks. First place, LV. Dao Yi Tianjun, Da Shah. Supreme Hongmeng Great Emperor. Reward, a Shinto godhood position. Players across the globe collectively lost their minds. This is a Shinto godhood position. Obtaining it means becoming an immortal and indestructible god. Something that countless people would fight to the death for and still not get has just become another one of your collectibles. You casually tossed the Shinto godhood position into your backpack. Useless as it may be, at least it's a rare collectible. But the next second, your expression suddenly turned cold. Even a saint can sense when their name is spoken. Let alone you, those people discussing you by name in the real world. The voices are no different than someone shouting in your ear, and you're annoyed. Naturally, you have to shut them up. The next moment, a majestic, divine sound slams directly into the minds of everyone on Blue Star. At the same time, all online players are forcibly kicked offline. Time on the entire Blue Star is completely frozen by you. The only sound left in the world is your voice, smashing clearly into everyone's ears. Those of you gossiping about me, shut your mouths. I am the player, Dao Yi Tian Zun. You can talk trash behind my back, but don't be chattering about it in the real world. Every single word you say, I can hear it. Don't come looking for me. I won't join any organization. What's mine, I'll give to whomever I please. Keep chattering nonsense, and don't blame me for knocking your heads crooked. You've made your stance clear. Having vented your emotions, you finally lift the time freeze. The people of Blue Star have just recovered from the confusion of being forcibly kicked offline, only to have their courage shattered by this time-freezing stunt. They always thought they were safe in the game, but you can even interfere directly with the game servers and control time on Blue Star itself. For you, killing them would be no different than crushing an ant. In the Daxia command room, Elder Long and the other high-ranking officials have just snapped out of the time freeze. After hearing your words, the entire room falls silent. He doesn't want to be found, so we won't look for him. Elder Long says with finality, regarding him, this is where it ends. Do not take any unnecessary actions. Someone beside him grows anxious. Elder Long. The more he tells us not to look, the more it proves he has a weakness. We should find him. He needs our protection. Elder Long shoots him a glance, and no one dares to speak again. Someone just sighs softly, it's a pity you won't join the officials. Otherwise, we'd be willing to give you anything, not to mention a high position. Meanwhile, in the Bald Eagle's underground lead-lined shelter, the higher-ups are slamming the table, losing their composure. Panic has overwhelmed their anger. They always saw the game as their final escape route, but you've just blocked that path for them completely. The president throws a report in front of everyone. Look at this report. He's never even left the beginner's village, yet he knows Zhu Tianzan knew from Daxia mythology. What does that mean? It means he was in the game before the servers even opened. Everyone gasps, but panicking is useless. Their only choice is to pin all their hopes on Steven. He's about to complete his class change quest. He's about to become the first player on the entire server to change classes by using the Dao Yi technique you provided to snatch that first title. In the dorm room, Lizzie and Housie have just come to their senses. Seeing the "don't come near me" look on your face, they don't even dare to breathe too loudly. They silently light a candle in their hearts for those gossips. You open your eyes. It's finally quiet. You weren't trying to stop people from talking about you, but for them to chase you down into the real world with their chatter. Did they really think you were a pushover? And at this moment, Steven's class change quest has reached its final step. He was ecstatic. All he had to do was complete this final step. He would be the first player on the entire server to change his class to Chi Refiner. Even if you were Taoist Master Tianjun, this first would still be his. He couldn't help but feel smug, and the very ladder he used to climb up was handed to him by you. Mr. Steven, this is the final clue we found for the class change quest. Someone came over and said in a low voice. Steven's eyes narrowed. I'll be the first player to complete the class change. The class change quest for a Chi Refiner was also very simple. It didn't require living off the land or studying Taoist scriptures. All he had to do was bow to the three pure ones of Taoism. The final step was to kill a demon that was plaguing the region. Then, he could complete the class change. And in Beiju Luzhou, they were short on everything except for demons. Those things were a dime a dozen. Steven quickly completed the class change. And at the exact moment the class change was complete. Ding! World announcement. Congratulations to player Steven for becoming the second player to successfully change class. Reward. 1 special class advancement scroll. Ding! World announcement. Congratulations to player Taoist Master Tianjun for becoming the first player to successfully change class. Reward. 1 unique hidden class change scroll. Hearing the announcement, you couldn't help but smile. First place again. Another world announcement. This one of a kind, commemorative achievement, filled you with a sense of accomplishment, and you couldn't help but laugh to yourself. Accomplishment. You were filled with anticipation. For how many more firsts like this you could claim in the future? Meanwhile, the player from the Sun Eagle Nation, who thought he had stolen the world's first class change and was secretly gloating, completely lost it. He furiously threw down what was in his hands, screaming and cursing hysterically. He insisted the game was unfair, demanding an explanation from the officials. But the Great Dao game couldn't be bothered with them, not even giving the slightest response. Steven furiously hacked off the head of the demon before him, roaring like a madman and spewing threats. But he didn't even dare to shout your name. This hysteria was nothing but a pathetic and powerless frenzy. After venting his anger, he had no choice but to calm down. Besides accepting reality, there was nothing he could do. A wave of helplessness crushed him. He gritted his teeth, wanting to stake it all on the rewarded special class advancement scroll. Even if it couldn't compare to your unique hidden class, it would still be a step forward. But the next second, a system notification was thrown right in his face. Ding! Due to the special nature of your Chi Refiner class, you are unable to advance to another class. If you wish to change classes, you must forget the skill. Dao Yi technique. Do you wish to use a potion of forgetting? Steven chose without hesitation. Yes, but the system prompted him again. Ding! You do not have a potion of forgetting. Class change failed. He completely broke down right then and there. He had taken full advantage of the Dao Yi technique you passed down. Now he wanted to cast aside that karma for a better future. That was simply wishful thinking. Under the laws of heaven, what goes around comes around. All debts must be paid. This was never something they could just get away with. 2 world announcements struck every player's heart like 2 heavy hammers. In just a few short days, almost every player on the entire Blue Star had completed their class change. From the elderly to children as young as 7, without a single exception, the lifespan boost from completing the Chi refining stage rejuvenated all the decrepit elders, restoring them to the prime of their lives. Now, on Blue Star, you can no longer find any elderly people staggering with age. And among them, nearly half of the players chose to be Chi refiners. And every one of them inherited the karmic debt from your teachings. This karmic debt is something you can choose to ignore, but they cannot choose not to repay. The heavenly Tao has its own justice. The class change unlocked the level cap. Billions of players who had mooched off your buff instantly leveled up 4 times in a row, putting them far ahead of everyone else. But for some reason, they felt a heavy weight on their conscience. It was as if they were carrying a great burden. The game forums completely erupted. Some were filled with anxiety, while others were stubborn and refused to admit anything. That is, until a player familiar with the ancient mythology of Grand Shah pointed out the truth. This was karmic debt. In the primordial world, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Having taken the blessings of the revered Yishin for nothing, this karmic debt would have to be repaid, sooner or later. The stubborn ones were left speechless. And finally, some people realized the truth. This wasn't just some game. Using their player status as a get-out-of-death-free card would eventually cost them a terrible price. The next moment, an announcement from the Great Tao game once again echoed between heaven and earth. Every player, whether in the primordial world or on Blue Star, heard it with perfect clarity. It has been detected that over 90% of players have now completed their class change. Players' spirit herbs, treasured medicines, and other natural treasures will begin to manifest in reality. Announcing the launch of the Great Tao Golden Rankings, the Spirit Herb Leaderboard. The leaderboard will refresh in exactly 24 hours. The higher the rank, the more bountiful the rewards. Everyone was instantly thrilled. Spirit herbs could now manifest in reality. That was equivalent to having an extra life. In the real world, you can't be resurrected if you die. Having these spirit herbs meant having a trump card to save their lives. Not to mention the generous rewards for the top ranks. The players of Blue Star were mobilized in an instant. The Bald Eagles and Little Sakura Island were especially green with envy. In terms of cultivation and levels, they knew they could never catch up to you in this lifetime, so they turned their attention to the Spirit Herb Leaderboard. They directly ordered their players to abandon leveling up and desperately charge into uncharted maps to find natural treasures. Even if they couldn't snatch first place, securing a spot in the top 3 would be good enough. As for Grand Shah, Elder Long had already anticipated this. He was all too aware of your unfathomable power and knew that you couldn't be judged by common standards. Even though you've never left the beginner's village, the treasures you possess are surely beyond what any ordinary person could imagine. He immediately ordered a portion of the players to keep an eye out for natural treasures while exploring the maps. It would be best if they could find some. Grand Shah was staking its thousands of years of heritage on this one gamble they had to take. Soon enough, many of Grand Shah's players with exceptional luck received an official commission. This included Desheng, whose luck was simply heaven-defying. And as for you, upon hearing the announcement, your eyes lit up in an instant. New leaderboard, new rewards. This was perfect for a hardcore collector like yourself. Whether it was useful or not, first place on the leaderboard and the exclusive reward, you had to have it all. especially the Supreme Grand Primordial Celestial Lord title from being first on the ranking board. A unique title, that's a testament to your hard-earned achievements. You were determined to win first place on this spiritual herb ranking. Without another thought, you went to the mountain forest outside the main city of Chang'an to grind monsters and farm for equipment. You were preparing to take down the diamond-level boss here, the Mountain Lord. Just then, a head suddenly poked out cautiously from the ground, and called out timidly. Great Celestial Lord. At the same time, Da Niu, relying on a faint premonition, brought his team to this unfamiliar map, far away from the main city of Chang'an. Just as they split up to grind monsters, they ran into you, standing alone in the forest. The team members wanted to avoid you to prevent any misunderstandings, but Da Niu suddenly cried out in shock. Everyone looked in the direction he was pointing and was completely stunned. The one who had emerged from the ground was none other than the local earth god. A true god from the heavenly court. The moment he saw you, he immediately knelt respectfully in salute, shouting, "This humble earth god pays his respects to the Supreme Grand Primordial Celestial Lord." You nodded faintly, and asked him why he came. The earth god quickly stood up, saying that the good fortune you brought to the primordial world had benefited all living beings, and he too had been greatly blessed. He had come specially to thank you. As he spoke, he presented a plant that had a full set of facial features, hands, and feet. 1,000-year-old treasured ginseng that would soon be able to cultivate a human form. Your eyes lit up. You didn't hide the delight in your eyes and took it directly. Seeing this, the earth god was completely relieved. He felt that the you he'd heard about in rumors wasn't so unapproachable after all. With a casual wave of your hand, you took out an innate spirit herb that radiated a precious glow and handed it to him. The earth god's eyes went wide on the spot. He gasped, and with a thud, knelt down again, thanking you profusely. This was an innate treasure herb. In the current primordial world, it's a supreme treasure, with one less in existence for every one that's picked. Yet you gave it away so casually. You didn't seem to care at all. You had plenty of this stuff. At the dawn of creation, it was everywhere. Just weeds that the innate gods and demons wouldn't even glance at. Now, it had become a treasure everyone fought over. You offered him a few words of encouragement, and let him leave. Da Niu's team, standing nearby, had heard everything clearly and were so shocked their brains froze. Just the medicinal fragrance wafting from the innate spirit herb made the surrounding plants grow wildly. Their experience bars skyrocketed, and they even leveled up on the spot. Only then did they understand what a casually given gift from you truly meant. Immediately after, they saw you shake the ginseng in your hand, and a cute, childish voice instantly rang out. The treasured ginseng immediately transformed into a palm-sized ginseng doll wearing a red belly bib. It was putting on a whole act of playing dead and looking miserable, but with just one sentence from you. "Keep pretending and I'll eat you." It was so scared it immediately behaved. You glanced at the dumbfounded team of Da Niu, and in the next second, vanished on the spot. The team members felt as if they were in a dream and quickly reported their encounter with you to their superiors. Meanwhile, Da Niu, following his intuition, discovered patches of immortal ginseng nearby, sprouted by the fragrance of the innate spirit herb. He had completed the official commission. Just then, the earth god suddenly emerged from the ground, intending to take back these immortal ginsengs. Seeing it was them, he just smiled and said the immortal ginseng was fated to be with them. He didn't mind at all. Yi Chong hurriedly asked about your identity. The earth god's expression turned serious, directly warning them not to pry into things they shouldn't. His words were filled with the utmost reverence for you, stating you were an existence even more noble than the Jade Emperor. At this moment, you were carrying the ginseng doll. You went straight into your chaos orb. This is a supreme treasure formed from a mass of primordial energy when chaos was first divided. Within the boundless chaos were countless innate supreme treasures. Chaos treasures and even primordial supreme treasures floated about. Even if the great Tao itself saw this, it would be green with envy. You paid no mind to the ginseng doll in your hand, which had already frozen in fear. You directly found the Pangu Hall, formed from the heart of the great god Pangu, and tossed the little creature inside, letting her be a mascot here. Inside Pangu Hall were also various divine and strange beasts you had collected since the beginning of creation. The little creature started bawling in fear as soon as she went in, only stopping after you flicked her forehead from a distance. You couldn't be bothered to watch her antics and turned to look at the countless supreme treasures being nurtured in the chaos. A heart full of satisfaction. My treasures. Meanwhile, on Blue Star, Elder Long also received news from within the game. What? He encountered that mysterious Dao Yi Heavenly Lord in the game again? Elder Long's eyes were filled with disbelief. What shocked him even more was that even a proper god of the Heavenly Court, the Earth God, respectfully addressed you as Great Heavenly Lord. In the entire Heavenly Court, only the Jade Emperor God is worthy of that title. The 4 imperial sovereigns are only worthy of being called Heavenly Lord. He subconsciously guessed you were the reincarnation of that being. But remembering your aggressive comments on Blue Star before, he couldn't help but wryly dismiss the idea. But he was 100% certain you couldn't possibly be immortal. You must be the reincarnation of a great power from the primordial era. Other than that, there's no way to explain your absurdly high level and the fact that even immortals and gods treat you with such respect. Then, he recalled that report. The Earth God offered you a ginseng spirit, and you gifted him a treasured herb in return. Just the dissipating spiritual energy and medicinal fragrance gave rise to an entire forest of ginseng. Elder Long's thoughts were racing. He couldn't figure out the intention behind your actions at all. At the same time, in the Bald Eagle server, Beiju Lujo, Steven was holding a strange fruit glowing with a bright yellow light, laughing wildly. He declared that he would definitely beat you this time. Since the Bald Eagle higher-ups received the news, they immediately popped champagne to celebrate, even though Steven refused to hand over the treasure for appraisal. They didn't care in the slightest. As long as they could beat Grand Shah, they would be satisfied. On the other side, the internet was already a raging undercurrent. Everyone treated the Great Dao Golden Ranking as a second battlefield between nations. Some were certain you could easily take first place, while others questioned the rumors of you knowing immortals and gods, calling it a publicity stunt. Others even jumped out to slander you, saying you didn't consider yourself a citizen of Grand Shah at all, and that you refused to help players from your own country. In the dorm room, Zhou Hao and Wang Lei were browsing the forums and saw these comments, making them burn with anger. They started arguing with people on the spot, but the two of them were no match for the swarms of trolls. They could only log off in a huff. You glanced at the two of them, and said flatly, "Were you arguing with people? Don't bother with them." You had long known about the criticism on the forums, but you didn't take any of it to heart. Not just anyone has the right to curse a heavenly lord. People who spread rumors have already brought karma upon themselves that they shouldn't have. The two of them were stuttering, hesitant to tell you about the matter. You saw right through them. Why are you being so awkward? It's just about that stupid stuff on the forums, isn't it? Why be so secretive? Chin Chuan, you have no idea how disgusting they are. Every single one of them acted like you'd wronged them. Zhou Hao blew up on the spot. Wang Lei was also nodding in agreement, but you paid it no mind. You changed the subject. The guidance counselor was just here. He told us to register our identities, but you two weren't here. I didn't make the decision for you two, so I'm asking if you want to register. The two of them looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. We're definitely not registering. We couldn't care less about that tiny subsidy. Then they looked at you anxiously. Chin Chuan, are you planning to register? You immediately shook your head. If they came to register me themselves, I would. But to make me go chasing after it, I'd rather not. The two of them instantly breathed a sigh of relief. They were afraid you'd be pestered by people after revealing your identity, and didn't dare to ask about the spiritual herb rankings. They just called you to go eat. After finishing the meal, the two of them dove right back into the game, frantically searching for heavenly materials and earthly treasures, waiting for the spiritual herbs to materialize the next day, while everyone else was racing against time searching for spiritual herbs. Great Dao Gold Rankings, which blotted out the sky, slowly unfurled. Countless people were startled. They looked up at the sky in shock. It's here. Regarding the ranking on the Great Dao Gold Rankings spiritual herb list, every country in the world was staring intently at the golden rankings in the sky. The tension in the world channel was cranked to the max. Foreign players were relentlessly taunting and throwing shade at the Grand Shah players, their vile words striking where it hurt most. The Grand Shah players fought back fiercely while also spamming their own country's channel. Everyone put aside their previous prejudices, only hoping that you could take first place. To vent their frustrations and bring glory to Grand Shah, just as everyone was watching with bated breath, the Great Dao Gold Rankings emitted a dazzling golden glow. Lines of text slowly appeared. The Great Dao Gold Rankings. The top 1 million ranked will all receive a reward. Starting now. Announcing the top 10. The entire world held its breath. Steven looked at the post-heaven immortal apricot in his backpack, his eyes filled with contempt. This was a post-heaven spiritual herb, even more precious than an immortal herb. He was certain that this time, first place was his for the taking. The next second, the information for the 10th place suddenly appeared. 10th place. Dao Yi Tianjun. Chaos Undying Herb, Chaos Divine Herb, Reward, Spiritual Field. The entire blue star fell silent for a moment, and then completely erupted. Everyone was stunned. No one expected you to only be ranked 10th. Moreover, no one had ever seen the Chaos Divine Herb grade. The highest level for spiritual herbs in the game was the pre-heaven spiritual herb. But what you presented was Chaos grade, which surpassed the pre-heaven level. Grand Sha players were stunned for a moment, then immediately burst into cheers. Even though it was only 10th place, the item you presented, model. It was already a treasure others wouldn't even dare to dream of, but the mockery from foreign players instantly flooded in. They spammed the screen, laughing at Daxia, mocking you for only having this much skill. The bald eagle president stared intently at the rankings, his forehead covered in sweat. His heart skipped a beat. 10th place was already an unheard of Chaos Divine Elixir. How could Steven's acquired Spirit Elixir even compare? The Emperor of Cherry Blossom Island was holding a victory banquet in his palace. Seeing you ranked only 10th, he burst out laughing on the spot, raising a glass to celebrate with his ministers. He was already plotting how to start a media war to crush Daxia's national pride. He even dreamed of returning to that land. Meanwhile, on Daxia's side, the high-ranking officials couldn't sit still as they looked at the rankings, their faces filled with anxiety. They were terrified of being mercilessly targeted by other countries if they lost this time. Only Elder Long was frowning. He slowly shook his head. Perhaps, things aren't as bad as we imagine. Steven looked at the rankings and was completely dumbfounded. A Chaos Divine Elixir? That level doesn't even exist in the game. The acquired immortal incense in his hands didn't even qualify to be on the list. His elation instantly turned into deep panic. He was afraid he couldn't protect his current status. Only you, in your dorm room, were completely calm. You had already figured out the rules. The Spirit Elixir ranking wasn't limited to one reward per person. One could get on the list an infinite number of times. From this moment on, from first place to 10th place, even the top 1 million spots would all be taken by you. You had so many Chaos Divine Elixirs you could fill the entire list. Within the top 1 million spots, there wouldn't be a second innate Spirit Elixir, let alone a second name. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei stood beside you, not daring to breathe, afraid you'd be upset. In their minds, they were frantically complaining, if a Chaos Divine Elixir can only rank 10th, how absurd must the ones ahead be? But they had no idea that the scene to come would make the entire world feel extreme terror. Amid the anticipation of countless people, their mockery and apprehension, the great Dao Golden ranking slowly refreshed. The information for 9th place shockingly appeared. 9th place, Taoist 1 Heaven, Chaos Rootless Lotus, a Chaos Divine Elixir. Reward, Spirit Master. In that second, the entire world fell into a dead silence. The foreign players who had been wildly mocking just a moment ago were instantly silenced as if their throats had been seized. They couldn't utter a single word. The champagne glass in the bald eagle president's hand fell to the floor with a crash. The smiles on the faces of the president and the congressmen froze instantly. They only felt a burning pain on their cheeks. The more rampant their celebration was before, the more ridiculous it seemed now. They finally realized it wasn't that you could only rank 10th. It was that the entire top 10 was all you. The president exploded with rage and cursed on the spot. The congressmen's faces were so dark you could wring water from them. In the palace of Cherry Blossom Island, the victory banquet came to an abrupt halt. The musicians were too scared to make a sound. The emperor stared at the rankings, his whole body stiff. He flipped the banquet table on the spot, screaming hysterically. Just moments ago, he was dreaming of a media war and returning to his old lands. Now, he just felt like his face had been slapped countless times. The previous nationwide celebration, it all became a huge joke. How to appease the furious masses became their biggest headache. The Bald Eagle Nation, Sakura Island, and all the other nations and people who held malice towards Daxia were all completely silenced at this moment. However nasty their taunts were before, the slap back they received now was that much louder. More than humiliation, what they felt in their hearts was a bone-deep fear. With an existence like you in Daxia, they could never, ever defeat Daxia. What? You say Daxia is a nation of courtesy? Then you've certainly never heard of the idiom, a just cause for war. And unlike those foreigners who were acting as if their parents had died, the people of Daxia stared at the great Tao golden ranking above them. After a moment of silence, they erupted in earth-shattering cheers. The entire world was filled with the sound of people chanting your name, Taoist Yishin. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei looked at you, then back at the golden ranking, their jaws hanging wide open. First they were stunned, then they started shouting wildly, "Holy crap!" The two of them thought you only had one chaotic divine herb. But they never expected you were hiding a whole bunch. A thought instantly popped into their minds. The top 8 are probably you, too. The more they thought about it, the more certain they became. Elder Long had already predicted this, saying with a smile, "There will be even more surprises." His words instantly stirred everyone present, and all eyes were fixed on the golden ranking, waiting to see the results that followed. 9th place. It was you. 8th place was announced right after. It was still you. Primal straight heart grass, a chaotic divine herb. The world fell silent in an instant. Everyone was dumbfounded. The fact that you had completely dominated the spirit herb ranking was set in stone. The people of Daxia were overjoyed, while people in other countries were left feeling nothing but frustrated, thinking that the people of Daxia were being incredibly pretentious. Steven's feelings were incredibly complicated. He was relieved that he was still number 1 in the world. But he also cursed you for being such a persistent pest. However, his petty thoughts were nothing in the face of everyone else's shock. Then, 7th place, 6th place, 5th place, all the way to 2nd place, they were announced one by one. Every single one had your name on it. Everyone went from shock to numb, clinging to one last sliver of hope. 1st place can't possibly be you too, can it? The golden ranking trembled as it unfurled. 1st place, Taoist Yishin, the primordial medicine heart lotus, a primordial sacred herb, reward, a chaotic spirit crystal. The moment the primordial sacred herb appeared, the entire world went wild. Daxia was a scene of jubilation, while other countries fell into a dead silence. Everyone was frantically wondering, where in the world did you get so many ultimate treasures? How is that fair? The corners of your mouth curved upwards. Dominate the rankings, achievement unlocked. The feeling of satisfaction was maxed out. In your eyes, this world was basically your own private server. Everyone else was just an NPC in your game. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei screamed out again, "Holy fuck." The way they looked at you was with pure disbelief. They finally understood why you had been so calm the whole time. It was because you already had the outcome in the palm of your hand. Elder Long laughed even more heartily, stating frankly that having you was Daxia's greatest fortune. He then had someone check the number of people from Daxia who made it into the top 1 million on the ranking. But when everyone pulled up the projection of the golden ranking, they all froze. The top 1 million, from 1st place all the way to 1 millionth place, every single entry was Taoist Yishin. The top brass of Great Shah were stunned. Players all over the world were speechless. After the dead silence came an overwhelming wave of shock. No one could believe this absurd reality. The gap between people, for you, had become a chasm. Ding! The Spirit Herb leaderboard has been announced. All players' spirit herbs will now materialize. The sky filled with colorful lights, mixed with a few dim glimmers. Players waited with great anticipation, but none of the colorful lights flew towards them. They all surged in one direction, Great Shah. From a cosmic perspective, the colorful lights of the blue star converged into a torrent, heading straight for the Shanghai University of Finance and Economics. Among them, a purple gleam shone with extreme brilliance. Anyone with eyes could see that was your Grand Mist Heart Lotus. The leaders of every nation instantly ordered all satellites to lock onto the light's destination. They all wanted to find you, this heavenly Lord Dao Yi, and win you over. Great Shah immediately put all of Shanghai under martial law, screening traffic layer by layer. They began a covert struggle with other nations, yet no one dared to investigate the university. No one wanted to die. Everyone knew, messing with you was tantamount to treason. You stood in the center of the pillar of light in your dorm room. Waving your hand, you continuously collected the spirit herbs, silently complaining that they were all mixed up. You'd have to reorganize them when the Chaos Pearl materialized. You casually opened a small world to store all the spirit herbs. Chaos Divine Herbs, innate, acquired, and immortal grade spirit herbs. You had them all. The pillar of light, spanning hundreds of acres, shone for nearly half an hour. It was visible from the next province over. In contrast, the glow from other players' herbs was too dim to even mention. Many players had a complete mental breakdown. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei, who were beside you, were numb with shock for half an hour. When they finally came to their senses, they stammered, asking how many spirit herbs you had. You casually tossed them each a low-grade innate spirit herb. The two of them were dumbstruck on the spot. You have to understand, the highest grade herb on the forums was only an acquired one. Its value was comparable to a small country. An innate spirit herb was a treasure even gods and immortals would struggle to find. They immediately started calling you Godfather, but didn't dare to accept it. You waved your hand impatiently, telling them to take it. Overjoyed, they accepted. Then they sidled up to you, fawning like lackeys, and asked how to use the herbs. You told them frankly you were going to plant the herbs in their dantian. This would allow the herbs to absorb impure and spiritual energy to grow, while they would also benefit from it. Plus, you could test if it could give mortals innate spiritual aptitude. Actually, you wanted your parents and sister to have this opportunity too. You gave the two a heads up. Taking your things meant forming a karmic bond, which they'd have to repay sooner or later. The two of them agreed without a second thought. In their eyes, following you meant they would soar. It was worth it, even if they had to pay a price in the future. You acted immediately, planting the spirit herbs into their dantians. A game notification instantly popped up before their eyes. Their core aptitude had been upgraded from ordinary human to innate lifeform. Comprehension, experience gain, and attribute points all doubled. They could also absorb innate spiritual energy every moment to gain experience. The two of them were moved to tears with gratitude, calling you their own brother. The Great Tao's golden ranking in the sky quietly faded, but a game announcement suddenly exploded in everyone's mind. The Spirit Herb leaderboard has been announced. The Equipment and Divine Weapons leaderboard will be announced in 48 hours. Players, please look forward to it, as 3 leaderboards are about to be opened. The player's strength has met the requirement. The real-world Calamity instance is about to open. Countdown: 47, 56, 23. The real-world Calamity instance is a time-limited raid. If it is not completed within the time limit, or if the raid fails, the monsters from the Calamity instance will descend upon the real world. Players must complete the raid. Warning: anyone killed in the real world or in the real-world Calamity instance cannot be revived. This announcement struck like a bolt from the blue, stunning all the players. Everyone panicked. They had thought the game was just a way to gain supernatural powers for themselves. They never expected it would require them to risk their lives. A failed raid would mean disaster for human civilization. The world went from its previous smug satisfaction to a dead silence in an instant. Great Shah, the Eagle Federation, the Bear Union, Britannia, top leaders of the 5 great powers, including the Gallic Republic, met to discuss countermeasures. The Eagle Federation's representative immediately demanded that Great Shah share its resources, using moral blackmail. The Bear Union's representative immediately distanced themselves, while Director Wang took off his glasses on the spot. He furiously rebuked them for their shameless greed and stated bluntly that there was no need to discuss cooperation. He then invited the Bear Union's representative for a private talk, and after saying his piece, he got up and left. The Eagle Federation's representative was so angry he slammed the table and immediately ordered his people to find you in Demon City. They were trying to contact and win you over, while the outside world was in complete chaos. The University of Finance and Economics was placed under heavy security, becoming the focus of the world. But no one could get in easily. Only the university's own students could come and go as normal. This was when Zhao Kai rushed back to the dorm, carrying his family's expectations on his shoulders. He hoped to find Celestial One Daoyi at school to curry favor, and began tidying his bed as soon as he entered the room. He completely ignored you the whole time, looking down on you from the bottom of his heart. You couldn't be bothered with him either, so you tidied up a bit and went out. The university started a voluntary real name registration for game identities, offering resources and benefits to those who signed up. On the surface, it was a benefit, but in reality, they were trying to narrow down the search for you. But they never really expected you to show up. At noon, Zhou Hao and Wang Lei logged off. The two of them had relied on the spirit medicine in their dantians to rush from mid-tier players to the top 10 on the leaderboards in just half a day. They returned to the dorm full of joy. They happened to run into Zhao Kai, who greeted them with false enthusiasm. He also asked about the latest news at school, trying to fish for information about Celestial One Daoyi. The two of them saw right through him and casually brushed him off, saying there was nothing new. Zhao Kai then invited the two to join his team, proudly mentioning that he was ranked 130,000 on the leaderboards. He had an air of bestowing a great favor with his open invitation. In reality, it was a move against you. The two of them immediately and politely refused. Zhao Kai's face froze on the spot. He couldn't understand it at all. How could he, with his rank of 130,000, possibly be rejected? Just then, you pushed open the door and entered the dorm. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei immediately dropped Zhao Kai and came over to ask you what you wanted for lunch. The two suggested going to a big restaurant off campus, and you casually agreed. Zhao Kai watched them fawning all over you and felt bewildered. He just assumed you must be pretty strong in the game, which was why they were treating you so well. As you left, you glanced at Zhao Kai, and he instantly felt a chill run down his spine. It felt as if he had lost something important. When he came to his senses, he flew into a rage out of pure shame. He considered being startled by you a total disgrace and cursed you 1,000 times in his head. His expression was grim. He couldn't believe he'd let you startle him. It was an absolute disgrace. Damn it, but in the next moment, the clock struck 12 noon. This was the moment the Grand Dao leaderboard refreshed. Countless people looked up, their eyes glued to the level rankings. Their eyes were filled with anticipation, especially Zhao Kai's. His gaze was scorching with eagerness, desperate to see if his rank had gone up. The leaderboards refreshed instantly. The spiritual medicine board was still a one-man show for Taoist Master Yishin. No one had any expectations for it. Everyone's eyes were nailed to the level rankings, where the top 10 had an unprecedented shake-up. Aside from the unshakable first place held by Taoist Master Yishin, the second through fifth spots were completely new. Second place, Lvi, Zhou Hao. Axia, Foundation Establishment, 9th level. Third place, LVE. Wang Lei, Daxia, Foundation Establishment, 9th level. The top 3 spots were completely dominated by Daxia players. The entire leaderboard was completely overhauled. The players who were originally 9th and 10th were knocked right out of the top 10. The entire web exploded in an instant. Everyone was dumbfounded. The top 10 players all had the full backing of their nations. Their leveling strategies were perfected to the last detail. It should have been impossible for anyone to overtake them overnight, and to open up a 4-level gap on top of that. The only possibility was that these two Daxia players, who had appeared out of nowhere, had somehow connected with Taoist Master Yishin. They must have received some heaven-defying opportunity, far surpassing any acquired spiritual medicine. Forces from every nation immediately launched investigations. The results came back quickly. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei were both sophomores at the Shanghai University of Finance and Economics. They were even roommates. The Daxia government immediately locked down the information and sent a heavy guard for protection. But other countries had already found the same information. The two were instantly thrown into the spotlight, and you, their roommate, became the prime suspect. Meanwhile, back in the dorm, Zhao Kai was all alone. He stared at the two names on the leaderboard, his skin crawling. He kept muttering that it was just a coincidence, that they just had the same names. He didn't dare to think any deeper, and he certainly didn't dare to admit that the two roommates he'd always looked down on were now standing at the very top of all players on Earth. He was terrified to even consider the answer that made his scalp tingle. Just then, you returned to campus with Zhou Hao and Wang Lei after getting a meal. Security at the campus gate was extremely tight. The two of them were muttering the whole way back, feeling like eyes were watching them from every direction. You spoke calmly. Those are government agents. They've figured out who I am. The two of them froze on the spot, but you were completely unfazed. You never intended to hide anyway. As soon as you walked into the dorm room, Zhao Kai instantly pounced, shamelessly pestering Zhou Hao and Wang Lei. He was practically begging them to introduce him to Taoist Master Yishin, trying to guilt-trip them with their bond as roommates. You shot him a cool glance and vanished on the spot. Zhao Kai didn't think anything of it, assuming you had just logged into the game. With his mind completely set on sucking up, Zhou Hao just snapped. He exposed his past dramas, cursing him for being a leech who only appears when there's something to gain. It was absolutely disgusting. Wang Lei chimed in too, telling him to have some shame. Zhao Kai's defenses shattered instantly. He flew into a rage on the spot, cursing them out and belittling all three of them as worthless. He even smugly revealed, the reason your financial aid application failed back then was because I was the one who crossed your name off. I even mocked you in front of everyone, calling you a broke loser. You deserve to work part-time to pay your tuition. As soon as he said that, Zhou Hao and Wang Lei's eyes turned red, and they were about to rush forward and beat him up. Just then, there was a knock on the dorm room door. Zhou Hao gave Zhao Kai a vicious slap across the face before stopping. Zhao Kai spat out threats, his eyes so fierce he could eat someone alive. He was already plotting a dirty trick in his mind. The door opened, and standing at the entrance was a group of people in military uniforms and official jackets. The elderly man in the lead spoke in a humble tone, asking as soon as he opened his mouth. "Excuse me, is Mr. Qin Chuan here? Are Mr. Zhou Hao and Mr. Wang Lei here?" The entire dormitory fell deathly silent. The color drained from Zhao Kai's face, turning pale as a sheet, and his whole body went limp. The answer he never dared to confront was now savagely slapped across his face. Zhou Hao and Wang Lei are completely respectful to you, and important figures have come all this way to find you. There is only one answer. Qin Chuan is the Dao Yi Tian Zun. The person he had just publicly insulted and schemed against was the one and only Dao Yi Tian Zun on the entire Blue Star. In that instant, he saw clearly that he was nothing but a complete and utter clown. Zhou Hao was the first to snap out of it, quickly inviting the people in. He said you had just left. Wang Lei quickly sent you a message. Then, he looked up and relayed the message, saying you had gone home, and that they should go back for now. But the man in the lead didn't get angry at all. Instead, he smiled, his heart now completely certain of the guess that you are the Dao Yi Tian Zun. He politely gave a few instructions and then chatted warmly with Zhou Hao and Wang Lei for a long time. Only then did he turn and leave. The moment they were gone, Zhao Kai, as if possessed, pounced on Zhou Hao, grabbing him and repeatedly confirming if you were the Dao Yi Tian Zun. He kept muttering about your friendship as dorm mates, begging you to forgive him. Looking at him in this state, Zhou Hao and Wang Lei found it both ridiculous and pathetic. And at this moment, with a single thought, you were already back in the small county town where you grew up. There weren't many people on the streets. Most had entered the game. You crossed several streets in a single stride, stunning a street vendor by the roadside. No one knew that this seemingly ordinary step was the supreme divine art of a step to the horizon. You stood at your front door, and with a sweep of your thoughts, you saw the situation inside the house clearly. Your parents were washing dishes. Your younger sister, Qin Yu, was running quests in the game. Just last night, that little girl had called you mysteriously, saying she had found a post-acquired spirit herb and wanted to bring a piece for you. She even puffed out her chest, promising to protect you from now on. That little expression of hers made you smile just thinking about it. You knocked on the door. When your dad opened the door and saw you, he was stunned for a moment. He quietly said, "You're back." You nodded and replied, "I'm home." The whole family instantly burst into life. Even Qin Yu was called out from her game. She threw herself on you, acting cute, as the family enjoyed the happy moment. Suddenly, there was a deafening bang on the front door. Your younger uncle, Qin Deshan's, yells came through the door, demanding your dad open up and pay back his debt. He was even clamoring to take Qin Yu's spiritual herbs as payment. Your brows furrowed. Qin Yu, puffing her cheeks in anger, told you the whole story. She had gone with her cousins to look for spiritual herbs. They agreed to search separately, and whoever found something would get to keep it. She got lucky and found a few stalks, but the others got jealous. They made a fuss and involved the adults, so your uncle used the money your family had previously borrowed to come to your door and demand the spiritual herbs as payment. Just then, the shouting outside suddenly stopped, followed by a fawning and subservient greeting. You had already seen him clearly, the high-ranking official, Chen Weiguang. He had come in person and ran right into your aunt and uncle yelling at the door. Outside, Qin Deshan had intended to act tough, but as soon as he saw the man's badge and imposing aura, he immediately chickened out. Thinking the official was heading upstairs to see someone else, he quickly moved aside. But he watched, wide-eyed, as that imposing high-ranking official solemnly straightened his clothes and knocked on your family's door. He began by asking, "Excuse me, is Mr. Qin home?" Qin Deshan and his wife were dumbfounded on the spot. His mind went blank. He quickly stepped forward, deliberately emphasizing that Qin Jiangguo lived here, trying to let the official know he had the wrong person. But the official simply replied, "Jiangguo. We are here for Mr. Qin Jiangguo." Afterwards, he watched helplessly as the officials enthusiastically and carefully shook your dad's hand, took off their shoes, and entered the house. He instantly felt as if he'd been plunged into an ice cellar, and a cold sweat drenched his body. He threw himself against the door, frantically shouting for his third brother to open up, but that door never opened for him again. Inside the house, you held down your father, who was about to get up, and waited until the commotion outside died down. Only then did you let your dad open the door. You remained seated on the sofa, with your back to the entrance, not getting up to greet them. When the officials entered and heard your dad call out, their expressions immediately turned serious. The leader, Chen Weiguang, quickly stepped forward and solemnly extended his hand to you. "Mr. Qin Chuan, hello." Your parents and sister froze on the spot, their faces filled with disbelief. They finally realized that these powerful figures, who could stir up storms with a wave of their hand, weren't here for them at all. They were here for you. You looked up and smiled, and said one word, "Sit." Chen Weiguang quickly complied, his demeanor very reserved. The people with him didn't even dare to sit, they just stood ramrod straight. You chatted with him briefly and then saw the group out. The visitors had been gone for a while, but the three people at home were still in a daze. Your dad finally couldn't help but ask you why they had come to see you. You casually said that they needed your help with something. Your parents didn't ask any more questions, just told you to handle it with discretion. Jin Yu immediately scurried over, pestering you to add her as a friend in the game. She announced her username, "Drinking Alone Under the Moon." You added her on the spot. The next second, her eyes went wide as saucers, and her little face turned bright red. She looked at the game interface, and then back at you. Her whole body was shaking. You nodded. "That's me, you can stop looking." Qin Yu instantly threw herself into your arms, screaming as she yelled, "Bro, you're actually the one heaven supreme. You're so awesome." Smack. She planted a kiss on your face, leaving a slobbery mess before running off, almost making you stumble. She turned and shouted towards the kitchen, "Mom, Dad, my brother is the one heaven supreme." You sighed and facepalmed, then added your parents as friends as well. The two of them stared at your game profile, stunned for a long time. Afterward, you told your parents to quit their jobs, and to just focus on playing the game with your sister. They both looked at you, and nodded without a second thought. Everyone on Blue Star knew that a single word from the one heaven supreme could turn the world upside down. Listening to you was definitely the right choice. You raised your hand, and 3 supreme-grade chaos spirit herbs flew out. They were respectively planted in your parents' and sisters' home fields, directly granting them the aptitude of a chaos being. They would now absorb innate spiritual energy at all times, with experience points being automatically credited. Even the level caps were instantly broken, allowing them to cultivate all the way to the Grand Primus Golden Immortal realm. Qin Yu was so excited she was jumping around like a little maniac. Seeing her like this, you sighed to yourself. At least with a sister like this, you wouldn't have to worry about her dating too early. Qin Yu. Dating? What's that? Not interested. Suddenly, the doorbell rang again. You glanced over. It was your uncle's family. You instantly furrowed your brow. The door had already been opened by your father, Qin Jiangguo. At the doorway stood Qin Deshan with a fawning smile on his face. "Third brother, it's me." After Qin Deshan got home, the more he thought about it, the more scared he became. He was certain your family had latched onto someone powerful. He was both jealous and nervous. After being urged on by his wife, he decided to first act submissive and curry favor, both to avoid any retaliation, and maybe even snatch your family's connection for himself. Qin Jiangguo looked at this ungrateful wolf of a brother. His expression was complicated. Back then, the family could only afford to send one child to school. Qin Deshan had knelt before him, crying and begging him to give up the opportunity. Because he gave in, Qin Deshan got into the power supply company and had a smooth sailing career. But Qin Jiangguo could only work under the table at a factory, and in doing so, he had raised an ungrateful wolf who repaid kindness with malice. Qin Deshan, on the other hand, considered that kneel from back then a lifelong humiliation. Mo spear Red Dustin in Aya. He then turned around to relentlessly suppress and retaliate against his third brother who had helped him. Just as Qin Jiangguo was about to speak, you had already walked out. You directly threw out several stacks of money. The money is here, take the money and go. Chin Deshan quickly picked up the money. He came closer with a fawning smile. Heh. What do you mean, go? I'm your little uncle. Aren't you going to invite me in to sit for a bit? Your expression was ice cold. You only spat out one word. Seeing this, Chin Deshan threw himself on the ground and started to make a scene. His wife couldn't pull him up no matter how she tried. You stared coldly at this family. The karma from all those years ago is going to be settled today. What your father gave up back then was more than just a chance to study. It was an entire opportunity to change his fate. Chin Deshan now has 3 self-built houses in the village, and 4 apartments in the county town, all of it gained by stepping on your father's life. He doesn't acknowledge the cause and effect, and he doesn't repay the kindness. Then we'll settle it, one debt at a time. Right after that, Chin Deshan was pulled into the car by his wife. Just as they drove a short distance away, it dawned on him, why should he be the one to leave? But the next second, the exclusive ringtone of the power supply station director's phone suddenly went off. He had just answered the call, when the director's furious roar came from the other side, cursing him out with a mouthful of profanities for provoking someone he shouldn't have. Dragging everyone down with him. His entire life savings were all gone. Chin Deshan's face instantly turned ashen. He understood in a flash. It was you. It was his dear third brother's family who made the move. His heart was filled with venomous resentment. He just felt that he was young and foolish back then. That he didn't give his own kin any face. How could his own brother be so ruthless as to wipe him out completely? But he was even more terrified. Once all his shady business was exposed, he would have to spend the rest of his life in prison. His only way out was to hide in the game before the police came. He frantically told his wife to tell their son to get into the game immediately. But when he and his wife tried to log in, they were dumbfounded. You have been permanently banned. All of your previous in-game earnings have been confiscated. Your level has been reset to 0. Chin Deshan completely lost his mind. His eyes were filled with despair. He would rather hide in the game and live a meager existence than be locked up in prison. But now, he couldn't get into the game, and he was about to be arrested in the real world. Others could gain longevity and power through the game, but he had become a useless person abandoned by the era. And he still had to atone for everything he had done. What he didn't know was, all of this was the karmic retribution he was meant to repay. You looked away, no longer paying any mind to this buffoon. You turned around only to get a headache from your little sister, Chin Yu, who was jumping up and down. Bro, tomorrow, I'm going to do the disaster dungeon. Can you get dad and mom to agree to let me go? Please? Without saying a word, you turned and shouted towards the kitchen. Dad, our bratty little sister says she's going to do the disaster dungeon tomorrow. Chin Yu instantly froze on the spot, her eyes wide as she stared at you. She was completely stunned. The next second, the house was filled with Chin Yu's miserable wails and howls as she got a tag team beating from her parents. Wah, I won't do it again. Stop hitting me, I'll never do it again. Wah, save me. You step forward with a smile and protect her. Mom, Dad, that's enough. Sis is just young and doesn't know any better. Just teaching her a lesson is fine, but you can't actually hurt her. Chin Jiangguo puts down the Septwolf's belt in his hand and glares fiercely at Chin Yu. You'll see if you dare to do it again. Chin Yu hides in your arms, sobbing and wiping away her tears. Wah, bro, you're still the best. You endure the feeling of her wiping tears and snot all over you. Putting on the air of an older brother and smiling, though in your heart, you know exactly what's up. This girl just wants to use you as a shield to take some of the heat. The horseplay continues until after 4 in the afternoon. The Chin family starts dinner. The meal is exceptionally lavish, all bought with the money Chin Yu earned from selling spiritual elixirs. Of course, all the money was confiscated by mom and dad in the end. Even the money you just tossed to Chin Deshan was given to you by mom beforehand. At the dinner table, mom and dad are still worried about your studies. Son, now that you're back, the school won't punish you for skipping classes, will they? It's not a holiday right now. You're drinking the soup made with spiritual elixir, not even lifting your head. I'll be heading back later. I still have things to take care of over there. Mom's eyes immediately light up. What kind of things? Don't tell me you got a girlfriend? What girlfriend? I'm not getting one. You purse your lips. Using all this cultivation power for romance? Grinding for game achievements is way more satisfying. Besides, those few Taoist partners in the primordial world are already a big enough headache. Mom and Dad exchange a look. They just assume you've grown up and have your own ideas, so they don't pry any further. Only Chin Yu tugs at you with teary eyes. Bro, are you leaving already? You're not staying home? I don't want you to go. Please stay, okay? You smile and refuse directly. I can't, I have things to do. Chin Yu puffs up her cheeks and announces on the spot that she is unilaterally cutting off all sibling ties with you. After dinner, Mom, Dad, and your sister all log into the game. You log in as well, but you don't go leveling up with them. Instead, you find an empty space and directly summon the four Mo brothers, also known as the four heavenly kings of the celestial court. The moment the four Mo brothers see you, they immediately drop to their knees in a grand salute. Greetings, great heavenly lord. Your expression is indifferent. You give a direct order. You are to lead your men and protect my parents and family. If they face any difficulties in their cultivation, you are to assist them. The four Mo brothers' eyes widen in an instant. The legendary great heavenly lord Daoyi, reincarnation of a chaos godfiend born of heaven and earth, actually has mortal parents? But they don't dare to ask any more questions. They hurriedly and respectfully accept. You raise your hand and cast a Dharma seal into their souls, imprinting them with your family's aura. Then, with a wave of your hand, you grant them a complete player template, giving them an interface identical to that of the Blue Star players. The four Mo brothers stare at the player interface that suddenly appeared before them, completely stunned. Then, overjoyed, they drop to one knee. Thank you, great celestial venerable. You may rise. You nodded. This is your reward. Do not disappoint me with your duties in the celestial court. Go and tell Haoshin that I said so. I'll take responsibility for it. As soon as the words were spoken, you vanished on the spot. The four Mo brothers exchanged a look and immediately rushed to the Cloud Thunder treasure hall of the celestial court. Inside, all the assembled gods heard the words, Great Celestial Venerable Daoyi. In an instant, the corner of every eye twitched as the heavenly secrets sent out frantic warnings. Each of them was wailing in their hearts. That shameless master who dared to even rob the Tao ancestor had actually returned. Seated high on the main throne, the Haoshin emperor couldn't stop the corner of his eye from twitching behind his 12-tassel crown. What could he do? Even the Tao ancestor avoided this great celestial venerable. He could only hold his nose and approve. Approved. You all will act according to the great celestial venerable Daoyi's will. Set aside all other matters of the celestial court for now. After the other gods had departed, Haoshin immediately stopped the four Mo brothers, pressing them for every detail related to you. When he heard that you had casually given the four Mo brothers a player panel, Haoshin was instantly shocked. His face was filled with astonishment. He had been stuck at the peak of the quasi-saint realm for countless years, with no hope of achieving sainthood. But players, as long as they had experience points, had no bottlenecks at all before reaching the limit of their innate talent. This player panel was the opportunity to achieve sainthood that he had dreamed of. After the four Mo brothers left, Haoshin immediately rushed to the Zishao Palace in the chaos beyond the heavens, kneeling and crying before the Tao ancestor Hongjun. He begged the Tao ancestor to get him a player panel as well. Hongjun, in his state of being one with the Tao, opened his eyes. His state of mind, devoid of joy or sorrow, upon hearing, Celestial Venerable Daoyi, was instantly shattered by those four words. He too coveted the power of the player panel, but even he couldn't see through its mysteries. He could only sigh and tell Haoshin that he didn't have that ability either. Haoshin was filled with despair. After leaving Zishao Palace, only one thought remained in his mind. As long as you were willing to give him a chance at sainthood, he would be willing to work like an ox for you. At the same time, the four Mo brothers had already changed into starter gear and shrunk their bodies. In the main city of Chang'an of the Great Tang Dynasty, they found the trio of Qin Jiangguo doing quests. The four of them eagerly scurried over, pretending to be new players, pestering and pleading to form a party. Qin Jiangguo's group couldn't stand their persistent nagging and finally agreed. As a result, upon entering the monster zone, the four Mo brothers directly one-punched a level 20 mob. They then charged forward and completely cleared out the entire mob area, picking up every last piece of dropped equipment and material. This left the three from the Qin family dumbfounded, exclaiming how ridiculous it was. They spent the whole day immersed in the game, collecting display items on one hand and grinding for achievements on the other, until noon the next day. Only then did they exit the game. The Calamity Dungeon was about to descend upon the real world. Almost everyone on Blue Star logged out of the game, eagerly waiting for the dungeon to arrive. In Great Shah, Elder Long looked at the ranking board with complex emotions. As long as Great Shah did not turn its back on you, the Great Celestial Venerable Daoyi, 100 years of peace would be guaranteed. Just at that moment, the golden ranking of the Great Tao slowly unfurled once more. The level ranking. The spiritual medicine chart has been updated. You're still firmly dominating the board. No one can even touch your position. But the level rankings have absolutely exploded. First place is still you. Second place through fifth have been taken over by 4 unknown players from Daxia. In second place, level 887, Mo Liqing. Daxia, Da Luo Golden Immortal. Third place, level 886, Mo Lihong. Daxia, Da Luo Golden Immortal. Fourth place are Mo Lihai and Mo Lasho. The entire world instantly fell silent. Everyone was so shocked by these level 800 plus ranks, it made their skin crawl. The leaders of the major foreign powers shot to their feet, their faces filled with utter shock. Dealing with one Dao Yi Tianjun was bad enough for them. Now, 4 more Daxia players over level 800 have shown up. Elder Long and his group were also shocked at first, but once they saw the 4 names clearly, they immediately realized, these are the 4 heavenly kings from the legends. The 4 great heavenly kings. Besides you, no one has this kind of power. Meanwhile, the people of Daxia erupted in celebration. Only the foreign players looked absolutely grim. Steven, who was originally in second place, was pushed all the way down to 10th. Immediately after, the system notification chimed again. Ding! The 48-hour countdown has ended. The Divine Weapons chart is now open. Everyone stared intently at the golden ranking list in the sky. They already had a feeling what was coming, but they refused to believe it. The golden chart slowly unrolled. From 10th place to 1st, the owner of every single divine weapon was you. Dao Yi Tianjun. The item at the very top, the primordial mother Qi Cauldron, is even a primordial supreme treasure, the #1 offensive treasure of its kind. The world fell silent once again. With the divine weapons chart revealed, the divine weapons manifested. Countless dazzling phantoms of the weapons shot towards the heavens. They radiated a chilling aura. If anyone dared to cast a greedy glance, their eyes were instantly seared, some even starting to bleed. Following that, countless streams of spiritual light, carrying a monstrous aura, shot directly towards Daxia's demon capital, converging into a pillar of light hundreds of acres wide. It lasted for a full half-hour before slowly fading away. You recalled all the divine weapons. Smile tugged at the corner of your lips. These treasures that you've longed for have finally manifested from the game into the real world. Just then, the system notification blared once more. The Calamity Dungeon countdown has ended. The dungeon is descending upon reality. Calamity Dungeon clear countdown. 24 hours. Failure to clear the dungeon before the timer runs out will result in a failure judgment. Blood-red dungeon gates instantly descended upon the lands of every nation, radiating an ominous aura. Every nation immediately dispatched its most elite teams of high-level players to enter the dungeons. Everyone was raring to go, worried that even their allies might snatch their points. Daxia also sent in its top player teams immediately. Countless people watched from outside the dungeon, anxiously awaiting the outcome. Before long, the dungeon gate reopened. A deafening cheer was about to erupt, but it was instantly caught in their throats. All they saw was someone with all 4 limbs severed, player covered in blood, crawling out of the gate. As for the other people in the team, they were nowhere to be seen. Everyone in Daxia who was watching the dungeon instantly stood up, their eyes filled with disbelief. Trembling all over, how could a Daxia team like this possibly have been defeated? And from the looks of it, they were defeated so completely. It was simply unthinkable. After the initial shock, people quickly rushed forward to perform emergency aid on the crippled player. This was the emergency plan Daxia officials had prepared for casualties, but no one had expected that this would be the result. 12 full pioneering teams of players were nearly wiped out, with only this one severely injured and crippled player escaping. The passionate momentum of the Daxia players, who had been on a winning streak, was doused with cold water for the first time. Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. This should have been the perfect opportunity for foreign players to mock Daxia. But at this moment, the entire world fell into a strange silence. The teams they had sent into the dungeon hadn't come out either. Everyone was desperately trying to console themselves. Maybe their teams were still clearing a critical phase, but the unease in their hearts could no longer be suppressed. Still, many people turned to the game forums and started furiously flaming Daxia. Especially a group of Sakura Island players, whose foul language became more and more intense as they cursed. In the end, they even started insulting you, the Daoyi Tianjun. But before this person could even finish typing, players around the world watched in horror. As his game account instantly turned gray, clicking on it revealed only a single, cold notification. This player is already dead. At the same time, within the borders of Sakura Island, the man who had spouted such arrogance was instantly consumed by karmic flames from the heavens. Not even a speck of ash was left behind. His soul was completely annihilated. But the immense karma incurred from insulting you didn't stop there. First, it implicated all of his close relatives, who died violently. Then, it struck directly at Sakura Island's national fortune. Their national divine beast, the Yamada no Orochi, let out a mournful cry as its form was directly shattered. The national fortune collapsed into pieces. And you, in the unseen world, became aware of this. Your icy gaze turned directly towards Sakura Island. You never cared for the idle gossip of your own countrymen. But this bunch of insignificant trash from a tiny island, who have been coveting Washa since the Tang dynasty, dared to open their mouths and insult you? They were purely seeking death. The next second, a lagging game announcement rang out simultaneously in the minds of all players worldwide. Ding! Due to unknown reasons, difficulty of the Calamity Dungeon within Sakura Island has been upgraded. Current level, maximum, nightmare level. If Sakura Island fails to clear the dungeon before the countdown ends, the powerful monsters from within the dungeon will descend upon the real world. Please strive to clear the dungeon. You retracted your gaze, but the global player base completely exploded. Everyone realized it, just because someone from Sakura Island cursed you once. The dungeon difficulty for their entire country was cranked up to the fatal nightmare level. Even Daxia's most elite team was broken in the normal difficulty. This time, Sakura Island had purely brought this disaster upon themselves. It was only then that everyone in the world truly realized that you, the Daoyi Tianjun, were a being who stood above everyone else. A god who could decide their life and death on a whim. They could afford to provoke anyone, but not you. This became an unbreakable rule etched into everyone's hearts. And at this moment, Sakura Island had fallen into complete chaos. Still, some people refused to give up hope. He roared insults at you in public, and the moment the words were out, he was burned to ash by karmic fire. His entire family was wiped out, and the nation's already chaotic destiny suffered another devastating blow. The terrified higher-ups of Sakura Island scrambled to start a live broadcast on every channel and TV station. Facing the direction of Daxia, they all prostrated themselves in unison, weeping and begging for your forgiveness. But you merely glanced over them indifferently, not even bothering to acknowledge them. Right after that, the Emperor of Sakura Island appeared in the global broadcast with his heir. He prostrated himself in front of everyone, using the plight of his innocent citizens to try and guilt-trip you. It was a vain attempt to force your hand. When you heard this, all that was left in your eyes was a bone-chilling coldness. Morality? How dare something that can only constrain mere mortals try and bind you? The next second, as billions of people across the globe watched, the Emperor, who had just been giving an impassioned speech, along with his heir, and the entire imperial family, were instantly turned to dust. Their entire lineage was extinguished. The world fell deathly silent. Everyone was shaken to their core by your ruthless and merciless methods. Not a single person dared to utter another word, not even the most powerful figures at the top of the world. They didn't even dare to breathe. Only within Daxia was the entire nation celebrating. Every street and alley was playing Good Days. The festive atmosphere rivaled that of the new year. The scene changes. You retract your gaze, returning to your dorm at the University of Finance and Economics. Seeing you, Wang Lei and Zhou Hao immediately rushed over. But they swallowed the words that were on the tips of their tongues. In the corner, Zhao Kai was cowering, still unaware of your true identity. Yet he clung to the vain hope of shamelessly riding your coattails. You shot him an indifferent glance and said just one thing. Get out of my sight. Zhao Kai froze instantly. All of his schemes and fantasies shattered completely as he walked out of the dorm, his face filled with regret. He had single-handedly destroyed his once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, with no chance of ever getting it back. As soon as Zhao Kai left, someone else came to the door. It was Wang Guosheng and his entourage from the Daxia government, their faces etched with anxiety. With only the two of you left in the dorm, Elder Wang bowed deeply to you. His tone was incredibly solemn. Heavenly Venerate Dao Yi, we implore you to intervene and help Daxia overcome this dire calamity. Daxia is willing to pay any price. He held nothing back, directly offering his greatest show of sincerity. In the points shop of the Calamity instance, there is a resurrection item. This isn't an exchange, it is merely a token of our sincerity. Your eyes shifted slightly. Even with your current heaven-defying power, this resurrection item was something you had to get. I'll do it. Just those 3 words sent Elder Wang into a state of absolute ecstasy. He had come expecting to be rejected, never imagining you would agree so decisively. He bowed deeply to you once more. On behalf of every citizen of Daxia, I thank you. With that, Elder Wang and his entourage departed. Not long after, on all of Daxia's television channels, all online platforms simultaneously broadcast an emergency announcement, an open letter to the citizens of Daxia. Today, Daxia faces an unprecedented challenge, the likes of which has not been seen in a century. All citizens should be prepared for anything and strive to better themselves. Fortunately, Daxia's destiny is prosperous. And fortunately, we have Dao Yi Tianjun, who has stepped forward to save Daxia from the brink of collapse. All citizens of Daxia should remember the sacrifice and efforts of Dao Yi Tianjun. We must not forget our roots are his kindness. In 2 hours, all television and online media platforms will broadcast Dao Yi Tianjun's battle scene live. The moment the announcement was made, the entire nation erupted. The citizens, who had fallen into despair after a disastrous pioneering attempt, were now all rejoicing. The whole country was jubilant. Meanwhile, abroad, there was a dead silence. Everyone's face was grim. In Qin Family County, Guangdong Province, your home was already in an uproar. Your younger sister, Qin Yu, hugged your mother's arm, jumping up and down and shouting with excitement. Your parents watched the broadcast preview, their faces filled with unconcealable pride. Your father, Qin Jiangguo, watched the television, with only one thought in his mind: after my son wipes out that foreign emperor, he can start his own branch on the family tree, a whole new lineage. 2 hours passed in a flash. All eyes across the globe were focused on the blood-red dungeon gate above Magic City. Just then, a figure appeared out of thin air. Daxia's satellites locked on instantly. The camera zoomed in rapidly. An ultra-high-definition image clearly transmitted your face to every screen across the planet. The global audience went wild. No one had expected that this all-powerful Dao Yi Tianjun would just reveal his face so directly. At Magic City University of Finance and Economics, your classmates and fellow students stared at the screen, at your sharp brows and star-like eyes, and your ethereal aura, and were collectively stunned. Who could have imagined that the ordinary, unremarkable kid in class, the complete nobody, Qin Chuan, was actually this Dao Yi Tianjun who held the fate of the world in his hands? Countless people were filled with regret, wishing they had befriended you sooner. Watching a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip through their fingers. And in Qin Family County, your relatives, seeing you on the screen, their minds went completely blank. They used to look down on your family for being poor. If they ran into you on the street, they'd pretend not to see you, afraid you might come asking for money. But now, as they looked at this peerless Dao Yi Tianjun, all that was left was a bitter taste in their mouths. They were sick with regret. Your eldest uncle sat on the sofa in a daze, his expression bewildered as he watched you on the television. Your second uncle raised his wineglass and took a heavy drink, letting out a heavy sigh. Your aunt's eyes were dim, their hearts filled with an indescribable mix of feelings. A sigh was heard, and it was impossible to tell whose bitterness and sorrow it belonged to. Back in your home, Qin Jiangguo and Yang Feng's eyes had turned red without them even realizing it. They understood instantly. You were doing this to bring them honor, to wash away the grievances of the past for them. Qin Jiangguo rubbed his eyes and said stubbornly, "Why is the weather so bad? It's even windy. I got sand in my eyes," he said, using it as an excuse to go wash his face. Yang Feng ignored his prideful act, her eyes red as she watched you on TV. Her heart completely melted. She smiled through her tears. Until a call from her mother came. She cried out, "Mom," and completely broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. On the other end of the line, her grandmother was also in tears. "Don't cry. He's so successful now. From now on, you two can just wait to enjoy the good life. Meanwhile, Qin Jiangguo also received a call from his older brother. As soon as he said, "Big bro," he was met with a heavy sigh, and then, you looked towards the direction of Guangdong province, a flicker of emotion in your eyes. Even with the power of a god, you still carried a human heart. Family would always be the softest spot in your heart. You quickly composed yourself, looking indifferently at the instant's dungeon over Magic City and slowly raising your hand. At this moment, countless people watching the broadcast all held their breath. Were they finally about to witness the true power of the heavenly sovereign? The gate to the instance rumbled open, even trembling slightly. It was afraid. Great Shaw's most advanced sci-fi drone flew right below you. The full view inside the instance was revealed to everyone on Blue Star for the first time. Disaster instance. Simple mode. Protect the city for 1 hour. Hold out until reinforcements arrive to complete the mission. Killing disaster beasts earns points. Successfully defending the city grants a bonus of 50,000 points. You glanced at the drone and spoke calmly. Enter. The instance gate let out an overwhelmed hum. The next second, a notification popped up in front of everyone. Your level has exceeded the instance limit. You cannot enter, but you ignored it completely, stepping right inside. The instance trembled violently for a long time before barely calming down. Instance instability. Notification spammed the screen again. The entire audience was stunned. This apocalyptic instance, which humans couldn't overcome even by risking their lives, had entry requirements that were meaningless before you. Entering the instance, the gate was held open by your invisible force, keeping the signal completely clear. You floated above the city, looking down at the dilapidated ruins below. And in the distance, a boundless horde of disaster beasts. Inside the city, the remaining soldiers had long run out of ammo and supplies, using their superpowers to defend the city they had held for over a decade. There was no retreat. Quick, look at the sky. Is that a savior sent from the heavens? A soldier with a washaw face cried out. The commander snatched the binoculars and got a clear view of you in the sky. His voice was trembling. It is. There really are reinforcements. The heavens didn't lie to us. Just moments ago, when they were on the brink of despair, a mechanical notification suddenly sounded in their minds, asking if they would accept aid from a parallel world. They had no other choice. They pressed confirm. They never expected the one who arrived was a comrade who could fly through the air. But the next second, they saw you flying towards the overwhelming horde of disaster beasts. The commander instantly panicked, shouting at the top of his lungs. "Comrade, don't go. Come back." You heard the familiar Daxia tongue. The countless Daxia viewers in front of the camera were stunned, too. This was actually a parallel world Daxia. The drone camera pulls back. In the frame, faces stained with gunpowder and grime, yet still resolute, and tattered olive green uniforms that seem etched into their very blood. And many soldiers had already lost their limbs. The sight of their mangled, bloody wounds instantly brought tears to one's eyes. You fall silent for a moment. Still, you extend your hand towards the horde of disaster beasts, your thin lips parting slightly, and utter two icy words, "Thunder, come." In an instant, dark clouds blotted out the sky. Blood-red lightning surged through the black clouds, plunging the entire world into pitch darkness. The soldiers below were all stunned. A young soldier asked the commander, his voice trembling, "Sir, should we still call that comrade back? Call him back? Hell no." The commander cursed. His eyes were glued to you in the sky, his entire body frozen stiff. You hear a soldier below murmur in a choked voice, "I miss my mom. Will we be able to go home?" A flicker of complex emotion crosses your eyes. With a cold shout, you command, "Thunder, descend." The sky filled with blood-red lightning as it came crashing down. Nothing remained between heaven and earth but a blinding, crimson light. When the phenomenon faded, the once endless horde of disaster beasts had already been turned to dust. Ding! The notification sound for +1 point began to spam wildly. You instantly racked up 350,000 points, completing the city defense mission ahead of schedule. The instance notifies you that you're about to be teleported away. You raise your hand and give a wave. A wave of pure, spiritual energy sweeps across the battlefield. All the soldiers' wounds heal in an instant. Lost limbs grew back. You also granted them the power of will. The stronger their conviction to protect the people, the greater the power they can unleash. Finally, you glance at the planet's satellite and vanish in an instant, taking the drone with you. You exit the instance. The entire run took only 5 minutes. The calamity instance you just cleared will never descend upon reality again. Instead, it has become a permanent monster grinding instance with no death penalty. You explain this change to the drone, and the players in Modu instantly erupt in excitement. But you don't linger. You've discovered a secret. These calamity instances are all independent worlds that have been invaded by the calamity. Each instance's shop has different items. The Modu instance doesn't have resurrection items, but it has equipment enhancement stones. As for the instance that does have resurrection items, it's in the capital. With a single thought, you appear directly in the capital, drone in tow. The audience in front of the camera is left completely stunned. From Modu to the capital in the blink of an eye. This ability is just absurd. Soon, you step into the capital's instance. Your vision is filled with yellow sand, without a single hint of green. This world has been even more severely ravaged by the calamity. Human civilization is on the brink of extinction. Fewer than tens of thousands of survivors are left in the entire world, scattered across the globe, just barely clinging to life. The instance mission popped up: survive for 1 year. Or, establish a tribal civilization of no fewer than 1,000 people. Complete either objective to successfully clear the instance. The audience couldn't take it anymore. Humanity is on the brink of extinction. For any ordinary person, this mission is basically on hell mode. But for you, it's something that can be done with a single thought. With a mere glance, all the survivors across the world, who were barely clinging to life, were instantly gathered in one place. Most of them were suffering from radiation sickness, with barely any life left in them. Among the crowd were 3 Chinese soldiers with missing limbs. They were desperately shielding over 70 children behind them, even though they could hardly stand. Their eyes were still filled with vigilance, looking at the horrifying wounds on their bodies. Their protective posture that they wouldn't abandon even in death. You were moved. You spoke, your voice calm yet filled with power. I am from the Daxia Kingdom in a parallel universe. You might need my help. The one word, comrades. The word, comrades, made the 3 soldiers, who had fought and bled through the apocalypse. Soldiers who would bleed but never cry, instantly well up with tears. How long had it been? It had been too long since they'd last heard that title. They straightened their backs, lifted their heads, and gave you a standard military salute in unison. Greetings, comrade. You lifted your hand and tapped lightly. The scars on their bodies and their fatal radiation sickness healed in an instant. Their severed limbs were restored, and the children behind them became healthy again. The once barren ground was instantly covered in lush green. From now on, this world is in your hands. And so are these children. After you finished speaking, you flew off into the distance, leaving everyone staring in utter shock. Your job was to eliminate all the disaster beasts in this world. The next second, a blinding white light swept across the entire planet. Wherever it passed, all the disaster beasts were turned to dust. Ding! Instance clear mission complete. The 3 soldiers watched the direction you disappeared in and raised their hands in a unified salute. The children followed suit, their small faces solemn as they raised their hands. Goodbye, comrade. Over the next day, you traveled through the 24 instances within Daxia's borders, clearing each one in just a few minutes. In just over an hour, all of the instances inside Daxia's borders had been completely cleared by you. The audience on Blue Star went from being wildly shocked at the beginning to completely numb by the end. Thank goodness this ridiculously overpowered player is on Daxia's side. The ones losing sleep now are the people from other countries. Elder Long watched the entire broadcast, filled with emotion. He immediately gave the order to open all the cleared instances for Daxia's players to enter and level up. We must seize this advantage and let our power snowball. He looked at the other countries' locations on the map, his gaze sharp. Those instances in other countries that haven't had a first clear yet. There's still tons of treasure waiting for us. And at this very moment, you are preparing to cash in the huge number of points you're holding. 9,300 points. You've conquered more than 20 dungeons. The points from each and every dungeon were an astronomical sum. 300 points.